Everyone, and sorry about that delay to get started, but hopefully this is going to be really worth it and that it's going to revolutionize your trading. Well, maybe not that much, but it is a really important part of your mental edge. It's the foundation of it, very much so. So today we're talking about performance profiling and the art of setting goals. This is basically about adopting a systematic approach to leveling up your trading performance or to working on your mental edge. So rather than just dipping in and out of random imagery scripts or saying a couple of affirmations that you've seen on the internet or things like that, we want to take a really systematic approach and a very practical one. And the start of it is here. So actually assessing all of the different factors that impact your performance and then understanding how to set goals around working on them. So we'll just jump into it there. Thank you, Mike. Okay, so an overview of what we're going to cover. So we'll start off by talking about being strategic about enhancing trading performance. So why do we actually need to approach it in this way? Then we'll talk about your trading why. So your actual motivation for trading and how it's so important to know what that is very explicitly. So to actually sit down and think out what are your reasons for trading. Then we're going to talk about how goals can actually directly benefit your trading performance. So what's the point in using them? And we'll also then talk about performance profiles. So this is an exercise or a technique from sports psychology that can help you to really break down trading performance into all of the component parts so that you can clearly at any one time assess where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are, and then tie this with your goal setting in order to give you that roadmap for actually improving your trading. We'll introduce Sally and Dave, which are two personas that I've made up to give us two different types of traders, so breaking the rules in different ways. And we're going to look at how both Sally and Dave can use the performance profile and goal setting to improve their performance. We'll talk about SMART goals, which is something that people are most likely already aware of and have heard of. But we're going to layer on top of that a new paradigm for goal setting, and that's using process, performance, and outcome goals. And this is a really helpful approach in any high performance domain. So we're pulling this from sports psychology and we're applying it in trading, and it really does work. Then we're going to talk about your complete goal setting framework. So how do you actually create a really comprehensive framework for your goal setting so that you can pay attention to only the goals that you need to focus on at the right time in order to achieve your performance. So if you're focusing on the right goals but in the wrong time frame, then it's actually going to trip you up. So this is just to help you understand which to use at what time point. Then we'll talk about diary planning, which again is something that I'm sure you're all mostly familiar with, but we're just going to look at how you would slot your goals into your diary, and then it becomes this whole mental training routine. So we'll talk about Sally and Dave's example goals, so the goals that they've chosen to work on in order to improve the performance. And then we'll just cover some tips on making your goals work harder for you. So actually getting the most out of this strategy. So goal setting in itself is one of the pillars of performance psychology. And even by going through the process of setting goals and focusing on them then each day in your trading, that alone can be a way of improving your performance. So it's actually a technique in itself. It's an intervention in itself. And then obviously key takeaways just to round up what we've talked about and make sure that you're leaving with some very practical steps to implement in order to help your trading performance. We'll just jump on to the next slide. Okay, so we want to be very strategic about enhancing trading performance, but why is that? Well, because trying to do too much is going to lead to frustration and failure, and that often trips people up when they're talking about working on their mental edge. So either they don't know where to start and they just have no idea, it's so nebulous and abstract, they're not sure how to actually go about working on their psychology, even though they know it's important. Or people are trying to do absolutely everything at once, work on every aspect of their trading and trading psychology and use all the techniques. And that actually won't lead to good results. So we want to be very strategic, very focused, and just focus on one key area at a time. And again, in terms of strategy, we want to pick the first or the most important factor that's going to have the biggest impact on your trading performance if you improve it. So we're looking for the big wins and the quick wins so that you can start improving performance and then move on to the next factor once that one's taken care of. So we have to have a system for doing that, and that's the performance profile. objectivity is key. So you want to really set goals that you can objectively measure, so that it's not just down to your subjective judgment each day as to whether you've hit your goal or not. We want to make them as much as possible very concrete and very measurable. You want to use practical strategies. So you have to have practical strategies in order to work on aspects of your trading performance. So you need to have a plan. So you want to really align all of these different elements up. So you use the performance profile to figure out what you need to work on. Then you set your goals in order to know where you're moving towards with that. So kind of your destination point. And then you select practical techniques in order to help you achieve those goals. And that might sound abstract now, but by the time we get to the end of the webinar, you're going to understand what all of those different pieces are. I think that, oh, sorry, I thought we had dropped off a point there, but we haven't. So we're going to incorporate goal setting into the rest of your mental training routine. So this is kind of the first step. Mike, I'm just going to ask you to move forward there. I'm not sure if these slides are coming up correctly, but anyway. Okay, so your trading why. So it's really important before you go near your mental edge, before you do any work on it, you want to figure out why are you actually trading? And you might intuitively just have an answer to that, but have you ever actually really sat down and thought this out? So listed all of the reasons why you're trading. And it's important to actually think about the reasons why you're trading from an extrinsic perspective. So they would be the rewards, the monetary rewards, the things you want to buy with the money when you make it, even the status and all of that. And be really honest with yourself about, you know, if that's part of it, if that's part of your motivation for trading, then like list that. So be honest with yourself about it, but also think of the intrinsic elements or the intrinsic motivation as to why you're trading. And what does that mean? Well, that's the reasons why you trade that are not necessarily for tangible benefits that other people can see, or, you know, that you can actually spend or turn into external things that you can enjoy, but more from the day-to-day perspective. So things like the mastery of the craft, being able to do what 99% of other people can't. So there's statistics to say that 1% of day traders can predictably profit net of fees. So that's only 1% out of everybody who's a day trader is going to predictably profit net of fees or get to that level. And 80% of day traders will actually quit within the first 2 years of starting out on the journey. So it's really important for you to know your why. And if part of that is mastery of the craft and that's what drives you, well then list that. And by knowing your motivations, it actually helps you. So the science says that when you really understand why you're trading, it helps you to build confidence, and it helps you to actually persist in the face of obstacles, which of course is really important. Given those stats that I've just mentioned, you're going to want every tool in your toolkit in order to be able to pick yourself back up again on days where the market is fighting you and you haven't stuck to your trading plan. So I always recommend actually setting out your trading why in visuals like this. So you can use photos or pictures or whatever it is to depict your reasons for trading. So first you want to think it out, and then it can be really powerful if you actually capture it in images like this and you stick it somewhere where you're going to see it every day while you're trading. So here, as an example, we've got the nice car. So somebody obviously wants to buy the sports car. We have a person on a mountain there. So that might represent maybe you're trading because you want to be in charge of your own time. You want to be able to travel the world and work from anywhere that you like. The golfer, so maybe that's because you really want to have more time off during the day. So you're sick of working, 9 till 7 or whatever it is in another job, and you want to actually make day trading your career so that you can have more time to yourself and you can choose what you do with parts of your day and you don't have a boss to answer to. Or you have the dream home, or potentially it's because you want to look after your parents in their old age. You want to be able to financially take care of them, or of course for your own family as well. So lots of different reasons why you trade, and all completely valid. So just be honest with yourself. But by actually putting it together in a collage or a kind of vision board like this, then this will help you to remind yourself every day of why it is that you're trading. So even if you're not focusing on this picture for 5 minutes a day, if it's in your line of sight, it will be going into your subconscious and it will be helping you. So I just recommend people actually taking the time to do that. And it's quite a nice exercise to do. So I recommend start there and then start implementing the rest of the techniques that we're going to talk about in this webinar. So we'll just jump to the next slide. Thanks, Mike. So how can goals directly benefit your trading performance? So this is all coming from research. There's loads of studies to back all of this up, and we know that this works. So goals help you to actually stay more focused while you're trading. And if you set really effective goals, then it can actually pull your focus away from the P&L and away from the money and more towards the process. So the actual execution of your trading plan. And that is the holy grail when we're talking about trading psychology, because any time where you're more focused on the P&L than executing your plan is when you're in trouble. So goals will help you to stay focused. They help you adopt the correct focus while you're trading. So like I just said, they help you to track progress in a systematic, productive, and objective way. So instead of just being drawn by your emotions and saying, today went well because I won loads, and tomorrow I don't have to make up for a loss or whatever it is, this will actually allow you to just systematically measure yourself against the same criteria day in, day out. So that brings a real consistency and discipline to your trading. Goals will hold you accountable. So again, there's no hiding. You can't measure your performance based on your feelings, and also you can't then change the goalposts. So if somebody, say, has taken a loss and they're tempted to change their trading plan the next day to try and make up for it, goals will hold you accountable and stop you from doing that. They also help you to zone in on a specific aspect of trading that you want to improve, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So they help remove that sense of overwhelm, and they give you a really clear framework and pathway to work through in order to improve your overall trading performance. They also help you to stay motivated and keep putting in the work, and this is when you set them effectively. So if somebody sets a goal that's unrealistic, like becoming consistently profitable within 1 year of setting out on their day trading journey, that can be something that will trip you up. So that can actually demotivate you. But if you go through all of the steps that I'm going to talk about in this webinar today, goals can actually be a source of motivation. So you set them in a challenging way, but also so they're achievable, and you're tracking them daily. So you actually see progress every day, and you're not having to wait until you're consistently profitable to consider yourself successful. You're more focused on the day-to-day gains and achievement. And if you can bring your focus to that sort of lens, then it means that you can get a confidence boost every time you hit your goals. And that obviously helps you to stay motivated to keep putting in the work. And I've just covered the next point. So you persist in the face of challenges more. They also help you to detach from the emotional pressure of your trading why. Now, that might sound like I'm contradicting myself because I've just said it's really important to focus on your why. However, again, all of this has to be taken through the lens of personalization. So if somebody has a very emotive trading why, so let's say they're trading so that they can buy medicine for a sick parent. Maybe someone is very ill and their healthcare costs are huge and you're trading in order to help with that. That's a very emotional reason to be trading, and it's a perfectly valid reason. But it means that if you're losing money or if things aren't going well, it's more than just the money that's at stake. So it could actually exacerbate your emotional response. So again, goals just help you to come into that happy medium middle ground where you're not trading from a place of emotions. And even if that is a reason why you're trading, you can use goals to pull yourself away from the emotions so that you're actually focusing on the execution of your plan when you should be. So again, it helps you to focus on the right thing at the right time. They also give meaning and purpose to your trading. So this moves you away from the dopamine chimp. So this is when the chimp takes over in your mind and just impulsively wants to press all the buttons, take all the trades, and basically your brain chemistry is hijacked and you're looking for a dopamine or an adrenaline hit. So if you're getting into that state where you're kind of losing perspective on the value of the money, then that goals can help you to check yourself there and to keep the monkey in check. Generally, they help you to get stuff done. So if you have a list of goals and you're focusing on achieving them, you're much more likely to be motivated and to actually, execute the plan, do the work, all of that, and you'll get more things done. So there's a ton of reasons there based on research as to why you should be using goals. So if you're not already, absolutely start using them. But there is an art to how to set them up so that you can get the most value out of them and so that you can make them really effective. And that's what we'll cover now. So we can just move on. Great. So if people haven't seen this before, this is the performance profile. So this is a technique from sports psychology. So it's from Butler and Hardy in 1992. And they use this with sports people to actually look at all the different aspects of, or the different factors that led to peak performance. So what are all the things that you have to be good at and taking care of in order to actually produce peak performance? And it's relevant in sport, but it's also relevant in trading. So what does this look like? This is a really simple exercise that you can do yourself on a piece of paper. So you don't need any fancy apps or computer programs to do this. You can literally sit down with a pen and paper and do this. You want to split performance out into 5 different key areas. So physical factors that impact performance. And these can be things like going to the gym. So if you know that going to the gym a couple of times a week makes you feel very healthy, energized, is good for your mind, good for your body, all of that, then you would put that in here. So from a sports perspective, this column would be very long. So you'd have everything from, let's say if it was a rugby player, you might have their core strength, their what they're lifting in the gym, their sprint like distance over 10 meters, how fast they are, all of that kind of things. So that would all go in physical. But for trading, it's really important as well to also consider the physical things that impact performance. So it could even be that doing yoga 3 times a week makes you feel very calm, centered, and even calms your nervous system down so that you're less anxious when you're trading. So whatever is good for you goes in here. There's no right answer, and every single trader will probably have a slightly different performance profile. So the factors inside it will be different. So you want to just consider the physical things that you do each week that would keep you in really good shape and would lead to optimal trading performance. Then the next column is mental. So this is mental, emotional, psychological. So these are all the factors in this area that you need to be either good at or working on in order to produce peak performance. And this one is obviously going to be a very long column because there's a ton of different factors here. So things like your motivation, the effectiveness of your decision making, your process focus. So again, not focusing on the P&L, but being more focused on the actual execution of your trading plan. Doing things like visualization. So that would be mental imagery scripts where you're actually setting out away from your computer and the trading station and going through the steps that you would take on an excellent trading day. Or maybe you're visualizing your perfect life when you have achieved your trading goals. So things like that. So they're actually mental training techniques, and they would go in on the mental column if you're using them or if you want to use them. You would also have maybe your level of activity in the market. So you don't want to be over trading or jumping into FOMO trades. How you deal with pressure. So, if you're able to withstand pressure, so maybe that could be very important if you're transitioning from sim to live trading. The pressure is going to increase. So you need to know what that's going to do to your thinking and then how to counteract that. So all of these types of factors are really important from the psychology side of things, and they all contribute to peak performance. Now, just to say, this profile is not exhaustive. You could have tons more factors in each of these columns, but I've just used these for an example today. Then you have the technical skill column. So these are all of the technical aspects of your trading that you need to be good at in order to produce peak performance. And again, I've just selected a sample here, but there's many more. So these would be the very basic things like the quality of your trade entry and exits. Are you taking your A+ setups? Also, how you're managing your stops, maybe your trade journal, the accuracy of your hypotheses, managing your position size, all of those kind of things. Then on the tactical column, we have some of the strategic aspects of your trading. And sometimes there's an overlap between technical and skill and tactical. So it doesn't really matter which column you place the factors in here, because sometimes there's an overlap. It's just more important that you get every factor down. So in tactical, you might have the use of a playbook. Again, you could have the developing hypotheses. You could consider that to be a strategic or tactical aspect of your performance. Reviewing your trades, understanding long-term market cycles, even understanding how different markets operate if you're someone that trades across different markets. So lots of different ideas there. Usually this would be the smallest of all of the columns. And then we move over to lifestyle. So this is in line with the performance lifestyle approach, where you're not just looking at the things that you're doing while you're sitting in front of your computer trading, or just directly before or just directly after, in order to enhance your trading performance. You're actually considering yourself as a person and a performer. So the things that impact a person are going to impact your trading performance. And they're things like your nutrition. So if you start your trading session and you haven't eaten breakfast, and you're not going to eat for a few hours, you're probably not going to be even thinking optimally, because you're going to be lacking a certain amount of energy. Your hydration, again, really important. So probably something that people don't think of, and some people don't need to think about, you know, they drink water all the time, and then some people just never drink water, drink tea and coffee all the time. And actually, if they increase their hydration, it would increase their cognitive capacity and their ability to focus. So that would be an easy win. If you're somebody that doesn't drink water, literally drinking water can even start helping your trading performance, depending on how little water you drink. Sleep is absolutely fundamental, and sometimes people don't consider this in terms of performance, but it's crucial. So if somebody came to me and said they wanted to work on their confidence, and they felt like this was the aspect of their trading that was, you know, they just really wanted to improve it and they felt it would make a difference, but they were only sleeping 4 hours a night, we would start with working on their sleep. We wouldn't even go near confidence until sleep was in place. And that's because if you think about performance like a pyramid, there's some building blocks at the very bottom that if they're not in place, you know, nothing else can be built on top. And they are things like sleep, nutrition, hydration. So always, if there's an issue in any of those areas, we just start there. And they're usually kind of easy enough wins. So with small techniques and small changes to your routine, you can actually really improve them. So if someone's looking for a quick win, then look to that column and see, is there anything that you can shift that might just improve your performance by 1 or 2%? And that will actually even start building confidence and motivation as you see results. And then, of course, we have to consider things like relationships with our partner, with our kids. If they're going bad, if we fight with our spouse, that can often impact us in how we feel, and we get more stressed. And then we might go and take that stress out in the market, or vice versa. So maybe you've had a bad day trading and you're really annoyed, and then you go and take it out by being short with the kids or whatever it is. So you can't separate the person and the performer. So it's important to consider these factors when you're looking at your performance profile. So once you've done that, you've mapped out all of the different factors that impact your performance. And it's really important that you list all of them. So at the start of this process, you're not thinking about just what you're bad at and what you need to work on. You're actually just listing everything neutrally that's important. Then the next layer of this is that you go in and you rate yourself out of 10 on every single factor. So not just the physical column, the mental column, but literally every individual factor. When you go through this, you can also, I haven't put it here, but I would recommend putting a notes column beside each rating and just a couple of bullet points as to why you've given yourself that rating. And the reason why you do that is because the performance profile is not something that you just do once. It's actually a tool that you can use as a way to benchmark your performance and to track it over time. So to monitor from month to month. And I wouldn't recommend rating yourself more than once a month, or it'll become a bit meaningless. But you can actually capture a snapshot in time. So if you do it today, you would rate yourself exactly on how you are today. So it's not like an average of how you feel generally you are in these areas. It's like right now, today, where are you at? And then in another month's time, if you've been using your goals and you've been implementing techniques to actually try and improve your performance, in a month's time, you should see differences then in your ratings. But also the beauty of the performance profile is that when you select the pieces to work on, you'll often see that when you improve one factor, some other factor will improve just by default. And that's why we do the next phase or the next layer of this exercise, which is once all your ratings are completed, then you go and you pick the 5 factors that if you improve them to a 10 out of 10 would make the biggest overall difference to your performance. So note that that doesn't necessarily mean the lowest rated factors, because if yoga is, no, it's not here. Okay, golf is a 1 out of 10 here, but improving your golf to a 10 out of 10 is not going to be as effective as, say, improving dealing with pressure from a 7 to a 10. So even though dealing with pressure is higher, it's probably going to have a bigger impact on your performance. So you pick the 5 factors that overall, if you increase these right now, would make the biggest uplift in your trading performance. And then you go one step further and you pick the very central piece to all of this. So you pick the 1 out of the 5 that you're going to work on now because you feel like that's actually at the center of everything. So using this example here, we've got the 5 factors are time outside every day. So this person feels they need to be getting out more. Maybe they're stuck in the house too much. They've got process focus. So that's not paying attention to the P&L and being more concerned with the execution of the trading plan. They've got their level of activity in the market, so they want to actually maybe stop trading as much as they are. Maybe they're taking impulsive trades. Dealing with pressure, so it's good, it's a 7 out of 10, but they want to improve it. And then operating their daily loss limits. So maybe that's respecting their daily loss limits. Maybe they're breaking it every so often. So they've got their 5 factors they want to work on. But at the center of this, they've chosen process focus to work on. So that's the 3 asterisks there. And they feel that if they could just stop focusing on the P&L and focus on the process, then that would actually really be the biggest thing that would uplift their trading performance. So I'm just going to take a quick look here at questions or at the chat to make sure that everyone's on board with me and that there's no questions on this piece, because now we're going to move into how we actually set goals off the back of this. So I love that people are saying they're working on their snack, water, sleep. Everyone's on top of the performance lifestyle approach. So I love that. Hang on, these are all just mostly about water. Okay. How to deal with performance sustainability anxiety. After a few good trades or a few green trades, there's a phase that comes where I make unacceptable errors. I'm going to come back to that at the end, if that's all right. Abid, is it? Just because it's a bit of a longer answer, but it is very relevant. It's a good question and I would like to dig into it. Okay, so I'm going to note that I'll come back to that, but for now we're going to move on to the goal setting piece of this. So Mike, if you could just throw us on there, thanks. So now we're going to introduce Sally and Dave, and these are just 2 personas, and again, randomly pick the names, I don't know why. 2 different personas of traders, and they're at very different ends of the trading scale. So in terms of breaking their rules, they're breaking it in different ways, and we'll see now how that is. So we're going to learn about Sally first. So Sally's trading why. She wants financial freedom and to give up her day job. So that's what she's all about, just living a life on her terms. And her biggest problem is that she has good technical ability and she has good runs of green days, but she has large losses when things go off track. So she's got the skill, but her psychology is tripping her up. And these large losses are really setting her back. So they blow holes in her account and they undo all the profitable days. So she keeps taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. So if she can't get a handle on this, she'll have to resign herself to staying in the day job and quitting trading. So really, that's not what she wants, and she's desperate to change this. So her challenges, if we boil it down, are over trading. So she tends to engage in FOMO and emotionally driven trades. Revenge trading. So she gets annoyed at the market and she's trying to make it back or show it who's boss, and not respecting risk and loss limits. So she's breaking her own rules and sometimes going over her daily loss limit and all of that. So her performance profile factors that she wants to work on, so that she's gone through that whole process, and the pieces that she has picked out as most important are process focus, waiting for the right setup, so not impulsively jumping into setups that don't fit her rules, resetting after a loss, sticking to daily loss limits, and exiting trades at the right time. So very clear on what she needs to work on in order to improve her overall performance. So Sally's more on the kind of risk taker, impulsive end of the scale. But now let's look at Dave. So Dave, his trading why is his wife is sick and she needs expensive medical treatment. So a very emotional reason for his trading. Trading is a way for Dave to make additional money to pay medical bills, and he's now the sole earner in the house. So that's an awful lot of pressure on the P&L. His biggest problem, so he has good technical ability, like Sally, and a talent for very quickly identifying the exact setups that he should trade according to his plan. So he's razor sharp on that piece. But he hesitates before taking the trade, and he misses many opportunities due to his hesitation. He also gets out of trades too early because he doesn't want to risk losing profit. So Dave is on the surface of it at the other end of the scale to Sally, and he's being sort of more hesitant, more cautious, but that's tripping him up in his trading. So his challenges are being gun shy, being extra risk averse after a profitable trade, and exiting too early. And the performance profile factors that he has focused on or decided to focus on are process focus. So again, if he could stop thinking about the P&L, then he could stop worrying about losing. Taking all A trade setups. And so that's when he sees the A plus setups appearing that he actually takes them. So he doesn't have a problem jumping into too many trades. He needs to actually push himself to take the setups when he sees them. Resetting after a win. So again, when he's won, he wants to hold on to the profit. He doesn't want to risk it again. And then exiting trades at the right time. So we've got our picture of Sally and Dave, and now we're going to revisit them in the rest of the webinar a bit later on. But we'll just move on to the next slide here. Mike, if you're ready. Thanks. So just to really quickly recap SMART goals, because I'm sure that everybody has heard of these. So this is an acronym that people use in order to try and remember to set goals that are effective. So that you want your goals to be specific. So you don't want to just say, I want to be profitable. You actually want to really articulate exactly what that means. So 12 or average per month is a specific goal, and that's better than just be profitable. You want them to be measurable. So you set goals that enable you to identify objectively whether you've met them or not. And we spoke about this. So you can't just leave it to your emotions or how you feel about your trading on a day to assess your performance. You want to actually have clear and objective criteria for measuring them. You want achievable and action-orientated goals. So they should be challenging but possible to attain. You don't want to make them too challenging or you're going to not meet them, and that will make you feel awful and demotivated. But you also don't want to make them too easy so that they're so easy to hit that you're not even challenged by them and you get bored. And you also want to make sure that your goals involve practical actions. So you want to make tangible goals that you actually can put some strategies in place in order to work on them. There has to be an action plan that arises from the goal in order to be able to improve whatever it is that you're working on. And we'll talk about what that might look like. They need to be relevant. So you want to figure out the key area that's going to make the biggest impact on your performance if you work on it, and then focus your goal setting within that area. So exactly what we've just done with the performance profile. And then you want them to be timed. So you need to set a time limit on when you expect to have achieved your goal. And sometimes goals will have numerous time frames set against them, and we'll look at that in a second. We'll just move on then. Thanks. Okay, so now we're going to layer on an additional paradigm. Natasha is saying no sound there. I hope I'm still being heard. Can everyone still hear me? Sorry, I'm going to assume. Yeah, okay, great. So performance process and outcome goals. This is again coming from sports psychology, and there's a ton of research to back up the effectiveness of this. So even in sport, we're recommending all of the same things as we're now recommending in trading. In any high performance domain, this goal setting framework is really important. So we'll talk through what each layer of the goals are, and then we'll get a lot more specific. Outcome goals are goals that can be influenced by factors outside of your control. So these are the kind of long-term, big, lofty goals that you set. So in sports, that's, I want to win a championship. In trading, it might be, I want to make $300,000 this year from trading. So I'm just picking a number out of the air. And you often would set them on a kind of annual, quarterly, monthly time frame. So usually it's not recommended that you would be using outcome goals on a day-to-day basis. But again, I'll say that it does depend on the person and what challenges you're facing. But just as a general rule, when you're thinking of outcome goals, think in that longer term time frame. And these can be influenced by factors outside of your control. So let's say you have that goal to make $300,000 in your trading this year, but for whatever reason, the market has gone a bit funny, and I mean, it has over the past while, and your setups aren't appearing. And even though you're sticking to your trading rules really well, the external factors just mean that that's not available to you to make. So that could happen. And in sport, you could have a referee could be biased and up for the other team, or you could have that no matter how well your team had trained and prepared for a match, maybe the other team are better at playing in wet conditions and it's raining on the day that you play. So there's some aspects that are outside of your control. So winning a match in sport or making a certain profit target in trading are outcome goals. Then you've got performance goals, and these are within your control. So these are you use these to help you improve your performance in specific areas. And these goals don't involve comparison of yourself with other people. They don't require you to be able to be in control of the market. And so they're completely within your own control. And so these are the goals that you want to be focusing on more so than the outcome goals when you're actually doing your trading day to day and when you're trying to execute your trading plan. So you set these on that short to medium term time frame. So quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily. And then lastly, you have process goals. And these are the goals that focus on strategy or emotional regulation, daily habits, any other processes that you have to go through in order to trade successfully or to meet your performance and outcome goals. And these are usually on the shortest time frame. So you set them to measure them on a weekly or daily time frame. And just going to ask Mike to click there so we're still on the same slide, but these are just examples. So we had the P&L based goals like making $100,000 profit in a year is an outcome goal. Performance goals. So a good example, 95% of trades managed effectively. So you're going to leave that little bit of wiggle room in order that you have some room to make a mistake and not feel like you've blown it if you make one mistake or you do have one bad day. The next one contradicts, what I'm saying there, but I'll explain why. So 100% of times I didn't go over my daily loss limit. That's so in your control, and it's so crucial to your trading performance and sticking to your plan that absolutely can be set at 100%. So it nearly reinforces the idea that this is completely within my control if you set it at 100%. So normally, if it's something you want to leave a little bit of wiggle room for slip up, if it's something like, taking A+ setups or managing trades effectively or quality of exits, those things. But for things like actually sticking to your daily loss limit, I would set that at 100%. So you actually want to set targets around these. And then your process goals, an example would be listening to your affirmation script every morning at 6:30 a.m. So again, that's just a mental skill that you would use, affirmations, listening to positive statements about yourself and how you want to trade. And the goal would be to actually do that every morning before trading. Also, a goal could be following a decision tree to a level of 9 out of 10 or above. So that's another just technique to use in order to help you to disrupt that automatic pathway when you get emotionally triggered in the market and you're about to just go on tilt. So a decision tree is like a strategy that you actually implement in order to stop that automatic pathway from happening. And so you might rate yourself on how well you implemented it. So when you started getting angry after the trades that you had a loss on, did you actually implement your decision tree, step away from the computer for 5 minutes, do some deep breathing, whatever it is, and then come back? So if you did that, you might rate yourself 10 out of 10. And then another one, very simple, could just be getting 7 hours sleep at night. So we spoke about how sleep is so important. Well, sleep would actually be a process goal. It's something you could track and work towards making sure that you got 7 hours sleep or more each night. So we'll just move on there. Okay, so this is to show you how all these kind of sit together. So you're going to end up with like a matrix of your complete goal setting framework. And the process goals feed into the performance goals, which feed into the outcome goals, but also we look at the time frame. So your daily goals should be reflected in your weekly goals and your monthly goals and your quarterly goals. So basically something that you're tracking on a daily or weekly basis is still going to be relevant on the monthly or quarterly time frame. So if we look at this, we'll take a few examples. So let's look at process goals on the daily perspective. So you've got your process goal to listen to 4-minute affirmation script before the market's open, and you're going to record that in your journal. So you're getting very specific about how you're going to actually track this. And then you have another one that says you're going to schedule and take 2 15-minute breaks every trading day. So again, process goals that help you to stay focused and, boost your confidence, motivation, all of that. So you're going to track that on a daily basis and you're going to actually implement them on a daily basis. But then if we take that to the weekly tracking level, you want 7 days of affirmations completed. So you're going to listen to them on days even that you're not trading. So you're going to actually rate at the end of the week, right, how many days out of 7 did I listen to my affirmations? Maybe you've set a target that you're going to listen to them at least 6 out of 7 days. So you've given yourself a little bit of wiggle room, but, you're aiming for the 7. You also reflect your taking breaks on the weekly basis. So you're going to actually track, right, each week, how well did I stick to my taking breaks every trading day? So that goes on. And then we get ones on a monthly basis here because sometimes they're not relevant on a daily basis. So for example, monthly in your trading as a process goal, you might actually identify underperforming strategies and make necessary adjustments. So you're only going to do that on a monthly basis because doing that daily would actually be overkill and you would just end up doubting your strategy. So sometimes there is a place for only including goals on a monthly and quarterly basis. So that's the process goals. But if we look at the performance goals, you'll see that they feed into the outcome goals. So again, just over in the daily column, you've got a performance goal of a daily average of 90% plus or more of trades taken fit the A+ setup criteria. And then a daily average of 8 out of 10 or above for your trade management. So you would rate every trade on your trade management and then you calculate a daily average. And same for has your trade met your A+ setup criteria. So that would be your daily goal. You'd be focused on that while you're trading. And that would help you to take your focus off the P&L because those goals are more about actually executing your trading plan. And then on a weekly basis, you would still track, the weekly average for both of those. And then you would track the monthly average for both of those. So the targets would just continue on, but you would actually make sure that on each of these timeframes, you were actually tracking the data. So you might have an Excel sheet with, the daily tab and then the weekly tab and then the quarterly tab or monthly tab, whatever it is. So you'll also see that if you actually achieve those performance goals, that would support you in achieving your outcome goals. So your daily outcome goal is no daily loss exceeding $800. So you want to stick to your plan, fine. On a weekly outcome goal, so you might have a profit target or a profit goal on a weekly basis. So achieve average of 2.5K profit. If you are only taking your A+ setups and you're making sure that your trade management is really good, that's of course going to influence the achievement of this weekly outcome goal. So just to help you see that all of these fit together, and if you're going to go to the bother of setting goals, you want to do it in this really comprehensive way so that you get absolute maximum value from the exercise. And we'll just continue to the next slide then. Okay, so diary planning. I'm not going to go through this in massive detail because it's pretty straightforward, but just to say that you actually then would slot each of these goals into your diary plan so that you could tick them off. So the let's say the affirmations goal, you said that you would listen to them every single day. So you'll see there on the process goal side, so in the column, you see mental training, affirmations, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so the rest of the week, you've got listen to your affirmations as a goal. So then let's just look at a different one. So you have discipline around your trading time. So maybe you've decided that actually you need to put the reins on yourself in terms of when you're trading. So maybe you were just sitting at your screens all day and it wasn't becoming very effective. So you've decided that you're going to finish trading by 1 p.m. And that obviously is only relevant Monday to Friday. So you've put that in Monday to Friday and you're going to track it. Then you could also put in your performance goals. So let's go with taking A+ setups. So at least 90% of all trades taken fit A+ setup criteria. And you're going to track that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then on Saturday, you're going to conduct your weekly review. So you've actually put in there that, the weekly average should be tracked on a Saturday. So when you've gone through the step before, so the framework, and then you actually slot the goals into your diary planning, then you don't have to ever consider anything further than just the day that you're actually working on. So for the person who is very attached to their outcome or their P&L, so, they're providing that care for their wife, in Dave's case, he can actually detach from the emotion of his trading why by going through this whole system. And then on a Monday, he just has to look at the goals he has to tick off on a Monday. And he knows he's done all of the strategic thinking elsewhere. If he achieves those goals on this day, then he is actually on track to achieving his longer term goals. So you can see how it kind of allows you to actually take control of your trading and to stop focusing on the P&L. So this is a strategy in itself to help performance. So we'll just move on to the next slide, please. Okay, so coming back to Sally and Dave, and I'm aware, sorry, that we're just coming up to the top of the hour, so this is a pretty straightforward webinar, so we'll fly through the rest of it. So we've come back to Sally. We're just reminding ourselves of her challenges. So overtrading, revenge trading, not respecting risk and loss limits. She had decided to focus on process focus as being the key thing in her performance profile that would help her to improve her performance, among the other factors there. So she has decided to use two different strategies to actually help her improve her process focus. So to help her to stay focused on executing her trading plan as opposed to paying attention to the P&L. And the strategies that she has decided are goal setting and mental imagery. So she's going to create a mental imagery script. So this is like a kind of visualization script where she imagines herself really, waiting for the setups, being patient, not over trading, all of those good things. So she's going to try and program her mind in order to be more patient and to take the actions that she needs to take in order to improve her process focus. So she's going to set a process goal then, when she's written her mental imagery script and recorded it. She's going to set a process goal to listen to her script 4 times a week before bed. And she's going to track that progress. So her process goals become to actually implement that mental imagery, so to engage in mental training. She also has set some goals in terms of performance goals to track daily, so to help her to shift her focus from the P&L, so to stop being so concerned with the money that she wants to make. And the way she's done that, she has decided to track the percentage of trades that fulfilled her A+ setup criteria. So she's aiming for 90% or more of all trades fit those criteria. So by focusing on that goal, she's going to try and stop herself from focusing on profit, and she's actually just really emphasizing waiting for the right setups to appear. And then she's also going to hold herself accountable to respecting her daily loss limit. So she's aiming for 5 out of 5 trading days. So that's how Sally has gone through this exercise, identified what she needs to work on, and then she's implementing practical techniques in order to help her improve. But if we move over to Dave, who's very different, opposite end of the trading scale in terms of his challenges, he's more risk averse, more hesitant, all of that. His answer and his system here can look very similar to Sally's. So even though he's gun shy, he's risk averse, and especially after a profitable trade, he exits trades too early. He has also decided that a process focus is the key factor that he needs to work on in order to improve his performance. And this makes sense because Sally is really concerned with the P&L because she's kind of maybe driven more by greed, and she's wanting to make more money, and she's impulsive. So that's a focus on making the money, focus on the P&L. And then for Dave, the problem is that he's also focused on the P&L, but his reaction to that is different. So he's becoming more risk averse. He doesn't want to lose money. So he's still thinking about money. He's just thinking about it in a different way. However, it's still tripping up his trading. So he's decided that he's going to use goal setting and affirmations in order to help alleviate this. So how is he going to do it? He'll create an affirmation script. So again, this is a mental training technique. He's going to write positive statements about himself and about his trading and how he'd like to trade. He'll record it. And then he sets a process goal to actually listen to this script every day before the market opens. And he's going to track his progress. So he holds himself accountable to doing that. Then he's also going to set 2 performance goals. So he's going to track the percentage of all valid setups taken. So he's actually pushing himself to take the setups when they appear. And he set a goal to help him to focus on that. And then he's also giving himself a goal of 8 out of 10 or above rating for quality of trade exit. So he's trying to actually hold the trades and stay in. So he's going to rate himself on how well he was able to do that. So we'll just move on to the next slide there. Thanks. So we can see there that two people coming from completely different angles with completely different manifestations of a focus on the P&L or an over focus on it, have gone through this whole system, this step-by-step process that we're talking about today. And they've arrived at a very clear point where they know exactly what's important for their trading. They've identified exactly what's going wrong in their trading. They've picked one aspect of their trading to focus on in order to improve their overall performance. For both of these people, it was adopting a more process focus and not focusing on the P&L. And then they've actually selected practical techniques to use to implement in order to help them to achieve that goal of getting their process focus to a 10 out of 10. So hopefully that makes a bit of sense as to how you can actually go about this and turn something that can seem a bit nebulous, working on your mental edge, into a step-by-step, very practical system that will help you to massively improve your trading. So let's just recap the main takeaways from this session. So you want to start with your trading why. When you're talking about setting goals and making them work for you, always start with what's my motivation for trading, and try and think of the intrinsic and extrinsic factors or reasons why you trade. So the reasons, like I do it for the enjoyment, the sense of satisfaction, they're intrinsic, and then I do it for the Lamborghini, that's extrinsic. You want to write down your goals on paper or record on Excel. So the research says that actually writing the goals down makes you more likely to achieve them. So it's not enough to just have them in your head and be vaguely tracking. So this goes for goals in any area of your life. If you have exercise goals, gym goals, diet goals, whatever it is, write them down and hold yourself accountable. And then review your goals daily and weekly. So ideally you will, in any goal setting exercise, you'll have goals to focus on the daily time frame, because that's what helps you to keep very kind of in the present moment, and it makes the goals much more effective for you. Also, it's important to tick the goals off your list as you achieve them. Give yourself credit for when you make progress. So actually you want to physically tick them off. And again, the research says that makes a difference. You also want to be flexible with your goals. So if you find that you're not achieving them because they're too challenging, so you've set them too high. So I want to be consistently profitable in a year. Why haven't I consistently profitable? Now I'm an awful trader and I don't want to, continue. That's not a good goal. You want to adjust the time frame there. So make them more realistic. But also if you set them too easy, you want to make them more challenging. Keep them simple. So don't set so many goals that you lose your focus. Doing it in that matrix way that I showed you is important, but you do that when you're kind of in a brainstorming session away from trading. When you're actually sitting there in front of your screens and trading in the moment, you only ever want maybe one, max two performance goals to be actually thinking of while you're trading. So set a few key goals that are going to make a big difference in terms of helping you on your way to achieving peak performance, and then just focus on them. So set process, performance, and outcome goals. Make sure they're all aligned. So do that kind of matrix exercise, and then make sure that they also are aligned on all of the different timeframes. So daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly goals. Finding an accountability partner. This is something that comes up loads actually in my coaching. Trading, it's good to be part of a community, but it's surprising how many people don't have an accountability partner and actually would like to have somebody that they just have to, send them their trades at the end of the day, or maybe just articulate have they hit their goals or not, and that adds an extra level of accountability. So I don't know if there's any mechanism for matching people up there, but I just know that it's something that a lot of people struggle with. So it's definitely a positive thing to have. And then, of course, lastly, celebrate success. So absolutely make sure that when you hit your goals, you're celebrating it, you're giving yourself credit, and you're not just immediately focusing on the next thing to achieve. That's really important, and it helps you to avoid being in that kind of perfectionist mindset that can undermine your trading. So celebrate success, really important. So I'm just going to go back really quickly to that question earlier, and then I'll see if we have any other ones. Actually I can do it here. Thanks, Mike. So going back to Abid, I hope I'm saying that right. How to deal with performance, sustainability, anxiety. Oh, okay, so you want to keep your performance going. So you've had a few good trades or a few green trades, and then there's a phase where you make unacceptable errors. So I would say in that case, there's one of two things. And again, this is off the top of my head here, so I don't know the whole situation. But straight away, I would guess that either there's something going on for you there where you're afraid to give back the money. So you're there's a fear of loss kicking in, or a fear of, yeah, it is a fear of loss. Or else there could be an element of self-sabotage. And they're kind of two different challenges. So both of those would sit more in your subconscious, and there's a ton of webinars in BBT, but also the pre-market show Mental Edge list of videos on the Bearable Traders YouTube channel has some videos that deal with this, the idea of how your subconscious can trip you up in your trading. So I would say that if you're consistently finding that after a run of good trades, that suddenly you're starting to make unacceptable errors and you're starting to kind of give the money back, that maybe the pressure is rising because you're afraid of losing the money that you've built up, or maybe there's an element of self-sabotage where you're actually stopping yourself from achieving, and that would be linked with a limiting belief in your subconscious. And especially when you're talking about there, so you're trading without a plan, sizing, etc. That's something that you're changing in how you're going about your trading. So it definitely would say to me that there's something going on in your subconscious, which basically is always the culprit. So if you can look at any of those resources, there's much more information about how to actually start uncovering what belief or what it is in your subconscious that's causing you to deviate from your trading plan, and then what you can do about it. So again, just pointing you towards a resource, affirmation scripts are really helpful for shifting anything in your subconscious that's causing you to actually deviate from your trading plan. Just going to see, is there any other questions? I don't think I've missed any before that. Do we have the goal setting framework? Okay, so Mike's saying that you have that in the trade book template. Okay. So I think that's it. Is there any other questions? Or sorry again about the delay at the start. So hopefully we haven't kept people too much over.
No, thank you, Crede. Outstanding presentation as always. And for everybody in the webinar or watching the recording, truly that performance profile is going to get you started on the right direction with your psychology, especially if you take the time to do it and don't just try to do it as a check in the block type of thing. One other thing I wanted to mention to everybody, our trade book meetings for the remainder of boot camp, we're going to shift them to 6 p.m. Eastern. I have some stuff going on Tuesdays now. So 6 p.m. Eastern is when we will do all the trade book meetings. And that should alleviate some of the deconfliction with BBT as well as Thor's presentations. Shouldn't have to move them at all. So, and with that, thank you, Crede.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks,
everyone.
Forward to it. And if anybody's interested in getting more in-depth help through that, please take a look at Crede's website. She definitely has some good programs out there for you to take advantage of. So thank you very much, everybody, and we will see you